What's up, folks, and welcome back to Dyce Reacts, where we are staying in Poland tonight. Oh yeah, we are going to be checking out why almost every foreigner leaves Poland eventually. Parmesan checks one out. We ain't going to waste no more time. Just going to get right into it, folks. We're going to get right into it. Oh yeah.
Poland is not for most foreigners. Seems like a lot of people are romanticizing Poland right now because of their strong anti-illegal immigration stance, their very nationalistic and protective culture, how safe it is, how fast it's developing. And that causes a lot of people to come here for the fantasy. They think that, oh, Poland is this utopia here in Europe. But then all of a sudden reality hits and most people end up leaving. I've lived here long enough to see people come and go, and I'm gonna tell you exactly why most foreigners end up leaving Poland. So this seems to be a basic pattern. A lot of foreigners come to this country and they go through the honeymoon phase. I know for me, because I've only visited Europe, but this is the first time that I've actually lived here. Getting to experience the European life is amazing. Public transportation everywhere, a lot more chill and laid back way of life. Not a heavy focus on work, but more of like a work-life balance, food. But after the first couple months, especially from months 3 to 6, I think that this is where a lot of people change their mind. The big problem with a lot of foreigners, especially here in Poland, is that they refuse to integrate. I think most people do it out of laziness, or maybe it's a certain arrogance that comes with it. A lot of people here are here transiently, right? They're here for a time. Either they're trying to make their way to Western Europe, or they're only here for the summer so they can go out, hang out with friends, meet some women, and then they all eventually leave. So because they don't have a lot of investment in this country, they don't really choose to integrate. And a lot of people end up living this life for years. It's crazy the amount of people that I met that have been here for 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, and still don't speak one lick of Polish. That is not Poland's fault. That is a refusal to integrate by these foreigners.
Sure.
Now, when I see other people praising Poland, it feels very hollow because a lot of the stuff that they talk about is very superficial. And a lot of people seem to be only hyping up the country to get views because Poles love it when you talk well about their country, and they'll just farm you for views forever. So let's talk about the biggest hindrance for a lot of foreigners, and that is the winter. I find it interesting that winter here seems and feels extremely miserable to a lot of people. But if you go to the Nordic countries where winter is objectively worse, for some reason, winter feels better there. And I think the Nordic philosophy on winter is they talk about embracing winter instead of surviving winter, whereas I think the Polish mentality is a little bit more about surviving the winter. It's great up until around New Year's, but January and February is absolutely hell. I'm sorry. There's something about the vibe in the air, how short the days are, the feeling that everybody has, and maybe just the lack of color in the country as well that makes people extremely depressed. And that's why a lot of foreigners who like Warsaw only really come for the summer, but as soon as it gets cold, most people leave. I personally like the 4 seasons. Every season has their own vibe. Fall to me is easily the best, and I like spring a lot, but winter can be rough, and I can see why. But also, if you didn't do a good job of making community and friends during the summer, during the winter, it can feel extremely lonely. So this is going to be the 3rd Polish winter that I survive. I am well prepared this time. If you take vitamin D consistently and you have a good community of friends around you, winter all of a sudden becomes a lot more manageable and a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah, when it comes to the winter, man, I'm not a big fan of winter. I mean, I don't like a place that is, it can be hot, but the humidity has to be to a level, not that high, because being hot and being sweaty all the time is what kind of frustrates me. If you someone who has a lot of sinus issues like myself, man, the cold is gonna slap me across the face many times, and it's not gonna be a good deal. I can hardly tolerate when I have it in my country, which is a tropical country, and the coldness is gonna eat me up. So that's the only downside of it. But even if I didn't have the like sinus issues, you know what I mean, I still wouldn't be a fan of the winter time. It's just the unbearable coolness. If it was just cool, you know what I mean, but the coolness where you're shivering and all that, I just can't do it for an extended period of time. I just can't do it. But he said it's basically like 2 months out of the year in Poland that's really cold. I don't know. You guys hit me up in the comments. Is it usually 2 months that is extremely cold on average, or is it something where it's like certain years is just way colder than others? for a longer period of time? Hit me up in the comments.
All right, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the language. Now, it's not a secret that Polish is very difficult, but there are a lot of issues with this language. So first off, if you only speak English, making the jump from English to Polish is crazy. It's like going from level 2 to level 5 in language. Because I speak Mandarin and Spanish, transitioning to Polish was actually not that difficult because a lot of the sounds that people can't hear, we have them in Mandarin. So I've been able to hear a lot of the consonant sounds, and a lot of the grammar rules actually share a lot with Spanish, which is why a lot of Latinos that end up moving here to Poland end up speaking very good Polish. Polish people are very proud of their language being extremely difficult, but are also frustrated when foreigners refuse to learn the language because it's so difficult. I think a lot of foreigners who have lived here for a long time just refuse to learn the language out of laziness or arrogance. Oh, I don't need to learn it. Everybody here speaks English. But if you don't know the language, Polish people just treat you differently. As someone who's been here for almost 2 years, my Polish is like pretty good now. It's like a A2, but I can converse with most people in most everyday situations. And the treatment is so crazy different. They treat me all of a sudden extremely warm. They're very impressed by my level of Polish. Now I also understand what they're saying. If you don't understand Polish and you hear them yelling at you, you think that they're just angry and rude. But if you know exactly what they're saying, you just know that that's just how they speak. They're not saying anything rude. They're just extremely direct. And these are all nuances that you can only learn if you take the time to learn the language. But I think that if you don't speak Polish, you will feel like an outsider forever here. And I think that's why a lot of people say that when they live here, it can be quite lonely. One of the things that I like about Polish people is that they are a lot more direct and they're not fake. So they make fun of us Americans because we like to do small talk and it's a lot of BS. And I can see where they're coming from. But in my opinion, as an American, that's just good.
I mean, he made some extremely good points there, and I'm going to touch upon it a little later. I never heard anyone say anything close to that fact.
Good manners, right? But for them, if you ask them how their day is and how they are doing, they will tell you for real. And then they'll go into like detail about everything that's going on. And that leads to a lot deeper connections and friendships, I think. Like they have a very hard exterior, but once you really get to know them, you realize they're super, super funny. Polish humor is like some of the best ever. I play PlayStation with this Polish guy that I met in Poznan, and the jokes that we have are so crazy. We go from many extremes, like to religion or to race, but it's all in good fun, bro. But it's very difficult to break into those groups initially. Polish people will be polite to you as a foreigner, but it's quite rare now where they'll try to go out of their way to befriend you. Poland is a country where it's a lot more rewarding the more you invest and put effort into it. The more you learn about the history, the more you learn about the language, really separates you from the other foreigners. And as you've seen on my channel, I feel like Polish people appreciate and respect that a lot. So one of the big issues about this country too is the bureaucracy and the residency and visa process. So it's quite difficult to stay in Poland. I applied for my TRC in January, but now I'm waiting for my fingerprints appointment. They were supposed to give it to me in Krakow in June, but because I moved cities to Warsaw, I had to reapply in Warsaw. So now I'm waiting for the fingerprint appointments again, and it's been almost a year. So a lot of people I know, when they wait for their TRC, they're kind of stuck in this country and it can take 10 months, 12 months. I've heard some processes take up to 2 to 3 years even. But if you know the right people, if you know the right lawyers, if you know how everything works, then it can be a lot easier of a process. Another reason why foreigners leave is because of the cost of living. If you heard over the last few years, people will say that Poland was very cheap, but it's not cheap anymore. It's a rich country now. Everything is expensive or just as expensive as a lot of Western European countries, especially if you're only in the main areas like in Warsaw, right? As soon as you go a little bit outside of the city, it's a bit cheaper, but it requires a working level of Polish, and a lot of foreigners don't get to that level, so they don't really get to experience that. I think the war was the thing that really changed everything. You have 2 million Ukrainian refugees coming into the country, but not enough housing. Housing has increased a lot. Food and everything in general has also increased quite a bit. Groceries, in my opinion, are still relatively quite affordable, and if you want to go out for a date and stuff, it's still not as much as what you would be spending in the US, but it's not dirt cheap like Southeast Asia or Latin America. I know a lot of people came to Poland looking for a cheap way of life in Europe, but if you can't keep up or you don't make enough, that causes a lot of people to leave. Another culture shock to people is just the drinking and smoking culture.
This information is really good. It sounds like it's up to date, and it feels authentic what he's saying there.
culture here. This was one of the biggest shocks to me. I've never seen so many women smoke in any country that I've ever been to, ever. And I'm going to be honest, I think it's extremely disgusting. I think cigarettes are gross. Maybe people like who are millennials around my age, they don't smoke as much. Everybody in university right now, all of the women smoke. It's crazy. And it's not just cigarettes. A lot of them also smoke the IQOS, but a lot of them also smoke the vapes. I think the vapes are the most dangerous ones. Like you can buy it super easily at Jabkas or stores around the metro station. People sell the vapes. And so many kids are smoking it, and they're smoking it indoors. And they start from such a young age. So that's why a lot of these younger generations, like especially the girls, they look so old. They're like 18 or 19, but they look like they're 24 or 25. So that was the most shocking thing to me. It's such a big part of the social culture here, especially during the winter. So since Polish culture in general is quite closed, one of the ways that people meet people is through smoking. And I asked a lot of these younger people, like, why do you guys smoke? You know, it's super bad for you. But they say that all their friends did it, and it's very hard to fight against the peer pressure. And the drinking can get a little extreme as well. Like if you go to a party, they're just all doing vodka shots. And I don't really like to drink either. And if you don't smoke or drink, then I can see how that limits your social life a lot. So with all of these problems, why did I personally stay? I personally really love this country because I think just who I am as a person fits very well into Polish culture. I don't feel like I have to hide myself. My sense of humor, the way that I talk, how direct and blunt I am, how honest I am with the good and the bad, how willing I am to assimilate and adapt to Polish culture. I think all of these things are things that I do naturally, but Polish people seem to really appreciate that. So that's why it's been a really good fit for me. I'm not here trying to change the Polish people's way of life. I have my observations, look to ways that I think the country can improve, but I fully understand that I am a guest in this country. If you really make the effort, you'll find that Poland is a very rewarding place, and I cannot recommend it enough for living. It's also a really good place to raise a family. So a lot of really good things about this country.
This was interesting. Heard some things that I haven't heard before. He has the cajoons to say some of the things that some people that are doing videos about Poland wouldn't really say. He's more interwoven into the culture as to understanding more things in depth in terms of subtle things that someone who just speaks English in the country, in Poland, wouldn't really get some of the nuances in terms of the interaction with Polish people. So I'm still taking what he say with a grain of salt. I'm asking the Polish people, but he said some things earlier where he mentioned that when you speak the language, Polish people tend to take you in a little more because maybe it's a sign of respect that you as a foreigner are actually trying to learn the language and understand the culture in itself, and not just in the country and being arrogant to not even try to learn anything about the country. So I guess learning the language shows your interest and your level of respect towards them, so it becomes more wholesome as time goes by. So you know, it's a little better in terms of the treatment that you're gonna get as a foreigner. I can see that playing out for true. He said in terms of the language, you speaking not just English but Spanish and other languages will be easier to learn Polish, and that's a good statement there, because many people don't say that. Because if you just speak in English alone and just going to try to learn Polish, there's no way I could have seen that it's just an easy transition. So what he said there made a lot of sense. Yeah, I love his honesty and his perspective. It's different, it's refreshing, and it just, although it keeps you a little on edge, because sometimes I don't know what he's gonna say, you know, and I might feel a little way, you know what I mean? But nonetheless, I love the way he presented everything. He's someone that knows the language, he speaks the language, so he has a little more credibility in what he's saying, definitely. So I'm gonna be checking out more videos from him. If you want to see that long run archer that I do, hit me up on Dyce Reacts, where I do music reactions. This is where I'm going to be making my exit. Until next time, peace out.